Today we've got some brand new gameplay information dropping for WARDOGS, the upcoming shooter from Bulkhead Interactive. Now, this game has created a lot of buzz since it was originally announced and detailed a couple of months back. I'm really interested in it. And the team at Bulkhead have given me early access to their latest trailer vlog, and that goes into greater detail on what early access is going to look like for WARDOGS, what elements of the game will be in there, what's going to be worked on during early access, and what the team's longer-term goals look like. So, if you're ready to get fully up to date on WARDOGS, smash that like button to support the channel, and make sure you're subscribed as well, because I'll be covering future WARDOGS info drops and gameplay details as the devs release them. Okay, let's get stuck in then. To start things off, I think it's probably most important to reveal the development team's goals longer term, because there has been, I'm sure you've noticed, a bit of a trend in recent times to open up websites that track player stats for different games and then compare them against each other. WARDOGS is pitching itself as a squad-based team shooter set on a massive map where you need to work together to hold objectives, score points, and win. Sounds like a few other games out there. Well, the team have recognized those comparisons, even leaning into them somewhat, telling us that the game is somewhere between Battlefield on the casual end of the FPS spectrum and Arma on the more hardcore end. The team has now produced this handy chart that gives you a clearer indication on what you can expect from the general WARDOGS gameplay loop. It's definitely more tactical than Battlefield, but not quite at the levels of Arma, although it leans more that way. Howard Philpott, UI UX director on WARDOGS, has said that this game isn't built for everyone. There's a specific audience that's being targeted. The game has greater risk involved in its combat than something like Battlefield, especially when it comes to decision making. You can't just respawn on your teammates, so if you die and no one's around to revive you, you're making that long trip back to the front line on your own. Pacing is slower than Battlefield as well, but faster than Arma, leaning into the slicker, more entertaining and enjoyable gunplay experiences of casual titles on the market. Gunplay is going to feel crisp, but it's not laser beam and no recoil weapon balance from the likes of Call of Duty. Howard says that WARDOGS has higher highs and lower lows, that friction is what the devs are actually striving for. You could have some incredible moments and then some real soul-destroying moments, but that's where the devs want WARDOGS to actually sit. That's its identity. Your weapon and vehicle loadout costs in-game cash. That's what you earn from completing team play actions. So if you don't complete enough of those actions, or you complete negative ones, like team kills for example, you won't be able to afford all the shiny weapons that you've unlocked. And it's this specific audience of players that WARDOGS is targeting, where the developers know a potential player base for this game will be smaller. The team knows that this game isn't going to be as big as other shooter titles that try and please everyone. The team has stated that once WARDOGS launches and it starts to settle down in terms of player numbers, if it lands anywhere around 3,000 to 10,000 peak concurrent players, they will consider that a success. Because the team at Bulkhead doesn't need the massive profits that AAA teams do, because their team isn't as big and isn't attempting to appease every type of shooter fan under the sun, their goals for success aren't as lofty as other teams. Right now, the game has over 350,000 wishlists on Steam, which is kind of nuts to be honest, probably way more than the team initially expected. But it means that if WARDOGS has big player numbers at launch, the devs know that in order to keep the lights on, they don't need to maintain those higher numbers. They've got their baseline, and they recognize that this game won't be for everyone. Okay, that's the player number discussion out of the way. Now we can focus on the really good stuff. Let's start with the reason to keep playing WARDOGS, the meta game the devs are calling it. This has been specifically designed to keep players engaged across multiple seasons worth of content, updates and mechanics during early access. Alongside the core gameplay loop, one key element of the metagame is gold bars. Now, we spoke about these in a previous video, but we didn't have most info on it, but now the team have kind of expanded on the mechanics, so here, I'll try and explain it to you. Throughout a season in early access, you'll be able to exchange your banked cash that you've earned in-game for gold bars. Gold bars are the end-game currency in WARDOGS that's used to purchase cosmetics that become permanently unlocked on your account that stay there forever. These gold bars cannot be bought for real-world money, only in-game currency that you've earned by playing the game. However, the gold bars that you purchase will fluctuate in price. There's an exchange rate between cash and gold bars. And that means that you might log in one day and the price is really great for an exchange, and the next day it's absolutely awful and you should have done it yesterday. You have to decide when to make that conversion, unless at the end of a season, the game automatically converts your cash into gold bars at whatever the exchange rate is that day, and your XP progression will be reset. This means any newer players that may have only just started playing WARDOGS, they get to be on a more level playing field with the longer time players at the beginning of a season. And it means the developers are then able to adapt and change the meta progression throughout the period of early access. So any gold bars and cosmetics from a season will stay permanently on your account across seasons, so you're essentially incentivized to manage your cash and gold bars alongside playing the game to make sure you're getting a good conversion rate before you're forced into that conversion at the end of a season. Then there's player skills, essentially a skill tree for the various different roles that you can take on in WARDOGS. Earning these skills means they will remain on your account permanently across seasons, giving you more value the longer you keep playing. You earn these skill points every time you rank up. Some examples given by the devs include for the medic role, to increase the speed at which you can revive somebody, a wider skill for more general infantry players that can refine weapon handling, and a skill for the pilot role, which gives you greater fuel efficiency, which will be great for those hot drop-offs in the combat zone. The skill points will be earned by playing the game your way. They'll unlock based on your playstyle, so if you want more medic buffs, play as the medic role and revive players, patch them up, and support other players in battle. The devs are describing player skills as, quote, incremental but permanent progression, end quote, which means that the more you play, the more you're going to feel like the game is rewarding you for the way that you play. This is a feature planned to be added during early access, and the foundation of this system is already in place. And then we need to talk about the challenge system and the black market. These are additional layers of progression and rewards on top of player skills and general account leveling. It's going to provide, as the name suggests, challenges that you can complete that will reward you with more resources. These challenges will push you out beyond your usual playstyle, and it'll encourage you to try different things in WARDOGS. The ultimate goal of these challenges, though, is to make sure you have sufficient cash to enter the black market. The devs are describing this as an elevated, more interesting way to obtain equipment and weaponry outside of your matches. One example that was given by the dev team is using your cash to bribe an arms dealer, essentially an in-menu vendor, to smuggle you weapons overnight. So you would literally ask them to do that. Let's say you finish playing at like 5 PM and you go into the menus, be like, yep, smuggle me some guns. Oh yeah, that's going to take 10 hours. Cool. All right, I'll come back tomorrow. And then, because you've paid for them, those guns will be waiting in your inventory for you to use tomorrow. That will then circumvent the need for you to purchase those weapons the legit way from a vendor in-game when you enter a match, and you'll probably get those weapons for cheaper by waiting overnight. You'll also be able to enter into wagers, where you can put down your in-game cash on completing bets during matches. For example, you could bet that you're going to kill 15 enemies in a single life during the next match, and if you complete it, you'll pick up the winnings. Miss out, and you lose your money. This reminds me a little bit of the wager system in Black Ops 1, and I really like that system. Also, via the black market, you'll be able to use your in-game cash to invest in what the devs refer to as businesses, essentially buying into manufacturers and instructing them to build you stuff that after a delay will then appear in your account for you to equip. They're describing this as the true endgame of WARDOGS, buying out weapons and vehicle manufacturers to produce custom loadouts of equipment that you want to use in your matches cheaper than via the in-match vendor. And again, just like the player skills feature, these challenges, wagers, and black market, they are all features fully planned for WARDOGS. They are implementing it during early access, and the core elements of these systems supposedly are already in place. So this stuff is gonna happen. And lastly, we've got the Vault. This does exactly what it says on the tin. It stores all your stuff. Everything that you smuggle in via your CD connections with arms dealers, everything you build with your investments into manufacturers, all of that stuff will end up in here and then can be equipped onto your loadouts for free because, well, you've already paid for it. If you have to pay for it again, I'd have a couple of questions about that. The overall size of your vault will be capped at the beginning, but it is upgradable and expandable permanently, which adds another endgame element to WARDOGS. So if you want to store some ridiculously expensive stuff, well, you better make sure that you've got a vault big enough to hold onto it. The devs have really stressed that all of these features, the player skills, the wages, the black market, the vault, not all of it will be there day one of early access, but as I've said a couple of times already, the underpinnings of each of these features has been built already, meaning it's purely down to the WARDOGS team to work on this stuff during early access, to properly implement them, polish them up, make sure they're bug-free, and then release them properly. So whether WARDOGS manages to carve out its niche, it kind of remains to be seen, but they're certainly building up some steam here. The developers have laid out their plans that trade this kind of broader market appeal for a more specific, slightly more hardcore identity, and they're aiming for a smaller, more dedicated player base rather than massive concurrent player numbers. The game is quite clearly, very intentionally putting barriers in front of players when they play the game in hopes of creating a more meaningful experience that keeps them coming back so they can level up their account and they can make their playstyle easier to access. And as we get closer to early access and the launch of the game, we'll see if this kind of blend of tactical gameplay and this like player-run economy can find a home with gamers out there. Based on the wishlist numbers alone though, it sounds like they've struck a chord with FPS fans. Thanks for watching guys, I'll catch you soon.